Hello, hello, everybody. And it is Wednesday already, and we already in the middle of May. And wow, time is flying by as it's crazy as it's doing. And we're here to inspire you, to make you think, to help you to grow. And that's what it's all about. Maybe you asked yourself the question, what's holding me back in my life? Why aren't I moving forward? Well, maybe today we might be able to get through to these little tidbits of things that sometimes seem so menial, but it can actually be a huge part in your moving forward in your own life. Hello, Nicole. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. And like you said, we're halfway through May, which absolutely amazes me. But somewhere in there, as fast as time goes, I'm like looking at my schedule and I'm a week ahead with things that I've written in there. So I literally had to ask Suri what the date was today. I'm like, what is going on here? And time is a man-made construct. And so when you've got time moving faster and you've got apparently me moving slower, I was like, well, I need to thank God for Suri. I don't know what I'd do without her. But anyway, it's all good. It's all good. And Glenda, we've got an amazing guest today.
I know you're very right.
I met this lady maybe a couple months ago and we just clicked. She's nice, she's elegant. She's done a little bit of work with me, for me, and a few psychic readings. She's amazing. So she is a psychic medium and she's been doing that for about over 10 years now. But this actually started when she was much younger. She used to have dreams. And as most parents would do, they'd tell her it was nonsense or just, stop her from talking about that. So I guess it was after her divorce, and I don't know how long ago that was, but I'm just going to put this out there. Us women seem to really blossom sometimes after divorce and really step into who we are. And I'm not condoning it. It's just that I know that was my path. It seems to be Michelle's path, and Glenda, I know it was your path. So, that's just speaking the truth. We've all flourished, and that's the same thing our guest did. And she started taking classes, some psychic classes, and I've done that too. And that can really help you hone your skill and really get to where you need to be, because it teaches you how to look at things different, how to listen for certain things. If you're someone that pulls cards every day, you don't necessarily read what the card says, but you read like the colors or the pictures. And this is even the coolest part. She has been teaching fitness for 41 years. And so she has incorporated her intuitiveness into her fitness. So with that, I'm just going to bring her to the stage because I, for one, can't wait to hear about this. So with that, everyone, please welcome Michelle Gray to our stage.
Hello, Michelle. Thank you very much for showing up and being here for us.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much. And yeah, I have been doing fitness for 41 years. I'm very passionate about it. I feel that we learn so much from the body. And if people could just realize that if they just put it into their daily practice, it really actually helps them to stay out of their mind too much, helps them to not only keep their body strong, but to have a more positive outlook on life, I believe. So I think it's actually saved my life a lot of times, just especially after my divorce. And I've been divorced, you were mentioning it, I've been divorced for like 15 years now, or 16 or something, I don't know, a long time. So
yeah. But it's true. It's been my savior through. I've gone through two relationships, and I remember the first time that I didn't want to be out in public. I didn't want to be in a gym. So in those days, I would pop a video into my TV, into my DVD, and I would work out. Like after my kids would went to bed, I would work out for like at least an hour to 2 hours late at night. And it just like all that energy that I needed to get rid of, it was my savior.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally understand. I've been teaching for such a long time that it's kind of like brushing my teeth. But when I was going through my divorce, I would get up really early in the morning, and out in Chicago, there was a place called Swallow Cliff Bluff, and I would go, there are 125 flagstone steps, and I would run those, do like 40 laps up and down, just walk them, 1,000 times. And then I would go teach a class. And then I would, go do something else. I mean, there was a couple of times that I'd bring people out there. I mean, at some point, actually had a hip replacement in 2019 for overuse for my hip because I've taught so many classes. So,
Wow.
Yeah, but you're as good
whatever.
as new now. You're as good
Oh
as new
yeah.
now.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's the same with me. And it's funny because I did yoga about 5 days a week.
Oh yeah.
And
Good for
and
you.
it's people don't think that's exercising.
Oh no, it is.
And it really, and I was more limber, I was calm. It was really amazing what it did for me. And then you get hooked, and then you go a day without it, and you get antsy, and you get to the point where I really need that yoga fix. I need to get on the mat.
Yeah.
So I
Yes. Yeah, I
understand.
agree. Yes, it's really important to me. I just feel that it's just been such a huge aspect of my life. I started in ballet when I was 2. My mom's our pediatrician told my mom to put everybody in dance, like in ballet, to help with coordination. So I just started in it and I just stayed in it for many years. And then at some point when I was in high school, I'm like, I'm never going to do this again because I didn't want to be in the core of ballet. And what do? I become an aerobic instructor instead. So what the hell's the difference?
Well, and speaking of your mom and your dad, I want to have you start with the dreams you had as a little
Oh
girl,
yeah.
because it says you started with these dreams. And I think it's the reaction of a lot of parents, because I had a daughter that would see colors come out of the wall and see things that I couldn't see. I told her it was okay and not to be scared, because I have some of those abilities. But what was it with you? What did you see here, and what did your parents tell you about that?
Okay, well, first of all, I grew up in a huge family. So I was number 6 of 7 kids. And so we grew up in a house in Hinsdale, Illinois. And our house is actually on the National Registry because it was, an old home. And we had au pairs because my mom would probably have never made it to the grocery store with 1,000 kids, in the car. So we had somebody from Ireland, and then we had somebody from Jamaica. Her name was Fonseca, and she always said that there was spirits in our house all the time. So there was definitely in our attic, something was up there for sure. And we had something, we called it the playroom, and we would kept all of our pets in there. So we had 2 fish tanks, we had birds, lovebirds, and things like that. And it was a huge room, but our dog would back out of the room growling sometimes. The birds would start flapping their wings and squawking all the time. And there was nothing in there, but you could feel like cold energy sometimes. So, yes, I would say that there was something in there. We ended up moving to the second home because my dad was starting his business. And I, just so you know, everybody needs to know this. I did not get my period until I was 16 because I was in dance. You know what I mean? So this had nothing to do with my period. It wasn't anything, because I was probably in like 6th, almost 7th grade, and I was getting really bad headaches because I just I didn't like the house. Like my mom didn't like the house because it didn't have any fireplaces in the new house, and she hated that. So I just did not feel good. And I would take a nap and I would have dreams. And these were not good dreams. I always had this dream that somebody was going to die. And I ended up waking up after this one dream. I don't sweat. I still don't sweat. I'm not a big sweater type of person. I was sweating badly. I went in to take a shower. And as soon as the water hit me, it was like a download of every single thing that happened in the dream. And I passed out and I fell out of the shower. And I pulled the shower curtain down, and it was scary to me. And I told my mom, I saw one of the kids that, not in my grade, but my sister's grade, that he died. And I kept seeing him eject out of a plane. And it was scary to me. And I told my mom what happened, and she consoled me and so on and so forth. And she was like, it's just a bad dream. Well, I had the dream again. And the same thing happened. I'd fall out of the shower. every single time. I mean, I'd get in the shower, basically like I'm falling out of the shower. So my mom thought for sure that I had a brain tumor. So of course I got to go in an MRI machine. That was fun. And they took me to numerous doctors. I couldn't find anything wrong with me. So then they told me I had a circulation issue, and they made me wear those stupid mannequin types, which I wore 2 times and then threw them away in the garbage can at the school because I wasn't going to wear them. And I told my mom, there's something wrong. Well, then I had a dream about somebody else dying. And it's like the same thing. My mom was like, there's something wrong with you. Like, there's something wrong. Like, we're going to go talk to somebody else. So they took me to somebody else. Same thing. Couldn't find anything wrong with me. Brain tumors, none. Didn't have any of that stuff. So, mind you, nobody died, right? But a couple of years later, that kid actually was in the Air Force, and he ejected out of a plane.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So now I wasn't even in, I think I was a freshman year of high school. Okay. My brother was in a bad car accident that year. So I was graduating from grade school, going into high school. My brother was in a bad car accident, and not really his girlfriend, but his friend, she had been a girlfriend. The parents had asked him to go pick her up from Arizona State. They were driving through San Antonio, and a van hit my brother head on. There were trucks on the side of him and behind him, and there was no place for him to go. And when they got hit, it was head on. He broke 13 bones, and her lungs were pierced by her ribs, and she died. And then right after that, this kid who was whatever, the one that I saw in the accident, eject out of the plane, he died. It was all in the same summer. It was the weirdest summer, right? Now, the other person that I saw died, I'm not lying to you, didn't happen until my kids were like little kids. They were at the YMCA, and somebody had told me that he had died. I'm like, so one was recent, like it was 4 years later, right? And then the other one wasn't for years and years, but I saw these things, and it was just like, it scared me that I was just like, no more dreams. Like, I don't want to know. I don't know what this is about. And I just feel like it kind of, I had awareness, but I didn't understand what any of it meant. You know what I mean? And I think that I was probably more empathic when I was a kid. I just didn't know or understand it enough. So then after my divorce, I was just distraught and unhappy, and I just needed to know where my life was going. And I went to see a psychic, and I told her about my dreams, and she's like, she goes, I really feel like you should come and take a class at my place. And I said, fine, I'll go over there. Didn't know anything about it because we weren't encouraged to go to psychics, and I'd never gone to a psychic. She was the first psychic I had ever met. Okay. This was in my 40s. So I went to her thing, and it was at her house. It was a class on a Sunday. I told my friends I was going. They're all like, why are you going to that? I'm like, I don't know. She told me to come, and I'm going to take this class. And so I went, and they made us write our name down and our birth date on a piece of paper, fold it up, put it in a basket. And then we had to take somebody's name out. And I said to the woman sitting next to me, her name was Allie. And I said, I don't know what we're doing here. Like, what's going on? She goes, oh, you're going to read somebody. I'm like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like, I don't do that. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just here. I'm just observing. She goes, no, you'll be fine. Just, everybody does it. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I've never done this stuff before. So they batched me up with this woman named Mary. And I'll never forget this because, I got goosebumps even talking about it. So she sits down, she goes, I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I just came here to see what this is about today. I'm not your person. And she goes, just close your eyes. Just tell me, if you get any images, just tell me what you see. I'm like, lady, I'm telling you, this is stupid. She goes, just do it. So I close my eyes, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, all I see are flip-flops. I said, I see margarita and some sand. I said, I don't know. And she laughed. She goes, before I came here, I talked to my friend on the phone. I'm buying the first margarita when I get down to Florida. I put my flip-flops in my suitcase before I came here. I leave in the morning to go to Florida. I'm like, it was a good guess. Like, it was just a good guess. Like, she's like, you're supposed to be here. She goes, come next week. So the next week I did it again. And this one was different because I saw a building and I'm like, it was white on the outside. I said, but it's dark inside. And I said, I'm so sorry. That's all I'm getting. She goes, I know exactly what that means. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. So thank you. Well, she had been abused as a child. Her father used to sell her to people, and they would have to go into these buildings. And it was a really traumatic experience for her. I'm like, that was just, I have no idea. So that's kind of how I got started on this stuff. And I just started going every week. And every week I went, it was just the same thing over and over again. And then I started practicing with my one friend, Sherry, who I love. And we've been practicing together probably since like 2011, every week. I mean, we practiced every day. We'd have to figure out what color a balloon was. We'd have to figure out if something was in their car to each other. And I'd never been in her car or in her house. And that's just how I kind of got started with this. So it was just a different experience for me. And then when I was going into my fitness classes, I was just like, okay, I know something's going on with you. And I know something's going on with that person. And then I was doing it with my personal training clients. And here we are.
So with your practicing, does that mean that it becomes stronger as you keep on using it?
I think so. I think so because, well, first of all, you're making a channel with somebody. So for example, like if you and Nicole were practicing every week, after a while, you guys start to really connect with each other. I believe, we're all just energy, people, you know what I mean? I mean, I've taken lots of classes on astrology, and don't get me wrong, I think astrology is great. I think tarot cards are wonderful, but energetically, I feel like I just get stuff better than because I feel like everybody has a different interpretation on tarot cards. And believe me, I've had tarot readings done, and I don't know. I feel that everybody has a different way of interpreting them. And I feel that if an energy reading, I can just kind of go right to the source of things. So, and not to put Nicole on the spot, but I kind of was like, just give me a person's name. And I was just like, this is what I'm getting on this guy. And she was like,
it was my ex.
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't want to say the name.
It was my ex. And she said, just give me his name. I gave her, and she just, I'm like, it was amazing. It was just every single thing that I had thought, felt, or actually known was validated in about 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. Yeah. It was crazy. And Michelle, I'm wondering, because I've heard this before many times, is when there's talk about the universe, it's said that everything that is, was, and will ever be in terms of information or things that are being invented or saying, everything's out there. It's out there waiting for someone to either tap into it or grab it and put it to use. Is that how you get your information?
I believe so, because I actually believe in more than the universe. I believe in multiverse, because if you really think about it, we've been in the past and the present and the future already. I mean, there are different areas of our life that I feel that we're already connected, or we're connected to something from our past. Like, I feel that we're in different time zones all the time, right? Even though this is linear here, I believe the way that we connect with people is on different levels. Like, sometimes I meet people and I'm like, they're such old souls. Like, little kids are old souls. You can just tell that there's something very knowledgeable about them. Or you meet people that, and believe me, I mean, I've done enough readings with people, and it's just like, I feel like sometimes people have very young energy, or they get stuck in that energy for a really long time because they don't know how to escape. they keep going back to that past situation, or they are so stuck in that they don't seem to want to connect to that future person. Do you know what I mean?
So
And I
let's
fear that.
let me interrupt for a second. Let's hit on that for a second, because it's so important. There are people that just want to stay back in where they were, back in the marriage that wasn't good, staying back in the home where they might have been abused, or maybe, let down because, unfortunately not all parents were made to be parents. Whatever, part of thing, and part of our life is being able to heal ourselves from the past, take something from it so we can grow, so we can move on, and with that new knowledge or whatever, we can actually pull some really incredible power from that.
Right.
Can you do you help people heal from the past, or at least be able to see what has gone on in that past?
Yes. I have worked with many individuals, because a lot of, as I said before to you guys, but we weren't on camera, but people don't know how to forgive themselves.
Sure.
And the reason why they stay in the past sometimes is, they keep reliving it. They have a guilt, they have shame, they have whatever, stuff is thrust upon them, unbeknownst to them as a child, and they're still trying to make up for something, that I feel that the past is a past.
Yes.
And if we could just move past that part of that shame and guilt and so on and so forth, for let them to really enjoy life. Marriages fail, right?
No
But
way.
marriages fail. Mine was perfect. So that's why I'm here. But anyway, but when we go through something that is traumatic, it we either can wear it around our neck as an albatross, or we can learn a lesson from it, or we can wear it like an albatross, pretend like we learned a lesson from it, go and do it the same thing over and over again, until finally God's just like, have you figured it out yet? It's not going to happen this way. It's not about that at all. It's just that everything is from here. It's inside of us. And our relationship with who we are is just outside of us. Got it? So we just keep meeting ourselves in different forms and different whatever structures, I guess, different environments, but it keeps going back to what we had as a child. And think about it, we're just grown-up children. So whatever happened as a child to us is we keep trying to make up for either the fight that we had with a sibling, the parents that should probably not have been good parents, or maybe really weren't in a good place for us, but we keep trying to make it up to those people, rather than understanding that when we go inside of ourselves and figure out that every single time something fails, we're failing ourselves. Period. That's the truth. Because until we can make it up to ourselves,
Okay.
so that we can make it into ourselves, then we can kind of turn around and say, okay, I can go back and forgive that relationship and relive that relationship as a revision, because I can do something about that situation.
True.
What do you think of that?
Well, I understand. And, when I go back, and from my ways is I always go back and understand that people do things because that's the way they've been taught.
Yep.
And when you can understand and respect that, it's not that we all, for the majority, know better. So,
right.
as an example, a man that cheats on a woman or vice versa, doesn't matter. It's maybe that he was shown, or her, through their life, when maybe the parent disappeared and was gone for times and did that. And even though that in reality that it's not the right thing to be doing, he was taught the other way. So he will or she, I don't mean to be putting this on men, and I'm not a man beater. I love men, just to be.
That's fine.
I'm just using it as an example. So when the person continues on the path, because it's just like the same with alcoholics or gamblers or anything like that. It's when you have been taught this deep down inside, you sometimes are not aware, and that's where we need to understand about our feeling of our body and soul and all the rest. But sometimes we're not aware of some of the things that we automatically just do them. And then you get caught in that doing syndrome. And then it's like, it's like an aphrodisiac. It feels good. You love it. So it continues on until you can break it down and realize that what was happening inside has been taught, and you know that you need to change it. But you got to be that person that wants that change within themselves to be able to make that change.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but let's talk about it this way. So as a child, everybody's just doing the best that they can with what they know is going on. Environmentally, we see things, we hear things or whatever, or it's just stuff that's been passed on to us. So the way that happens in one person's house isn't going to necessarily happen in another person's house. We already have an expectation of how we assume other people are going to act. Right? And when we assume that, it's kind of like when you go into a marriage, okay? My mom and dad have been married for 65 years this year. It's awesome, and I love them, right? They still write love letters to each other. And I'm telling you this, and you can ask anybody in my family, one dies, the other one's gone. It's just, we already know this. And that's the way that it's meant to be. And I love that. But I assumed that's how my marriage was going to be.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I get it.
And now they've gone through lots of things. My one brother, he got hit by a car. He almost died. My other brother, one I talked about, he was in an accident. My other brother committed suicide. I mean, we've gone through some pretty tragic stuff in my family. Mm-hmm. So the love and dove and of my parents' relationship also had a lot of lessons and things like that. But I still saw the communication and the way that they talk to each other. So I just assumed that was going to be whatever, right? And then I go into what I was in my marriage, and I didn't have that. And so is that my fault that I didn't recognize it? I don't know. How about that? Because I feel that my expectation of what I assumed was going to happen, obviously didn't. I don't hate men, okay? I'm with you on that, because I can't just say it's on him, because then there's also my expectation of appeasing and doing the things that I did. And I feel that what happens in any types of relationship is communication is important, okay? Yeah. It affects everything. It affects how you are going to be with a person, not you, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. And then on top of it, how you are with yourself. So the whole cheating thing or whatever is, I've said this to people before, is like, you deserve better, right? You deserve better than that. And yet, if they don't, okay, how can I put it this way? They're afraid to change their status. They're afraid to change who they are. They're afraid to change whatever. So their fear overtakes their, sorry to say it, their self-esteem, let's just say, their everything, you know what I mean? Because their whole world is crumbling in. I feel that a lot of times that's the past, right? So we can be these other people through like law of attraction and things like that. I've read a lot of books on different things, and I've read books on forgiveness because I felt that forgiveness was really important. Think about the 4 agreements, you know what I mean? Be very, true with your words and things like that. And it's all about your discernment on things. Is who are you to yourself that is going to make a difference? And I feel that if we can just teach kids to stop listening to the outside noise, listen to your inner voice. Kids are very intuitive. I mean, we all are intuitive, and yet the TV, the social media, the teachers, the people that are having a bad day in their own life are now on top of who we are as a person. And if we're too open, we are allowing that in. You know what I mean? And I think that also takes away from us doing like time travel. And I believe in time travel because I believe that we actually do a lot of it when we're sleeping. If we are open to it, we can actually go and make a connection to our other selves that can actually help us here to live our life. Like Nicole and I have actually had this talk about, 3D and 5D. We're already in 5D. If you
We're
have
already
to
in
say
5D.
that you're 3D, if you have to say you're getting into 5D, you're not there. You're not
Right.
there yet. That
It's a
doesn't mean you're not
consciousness.
getting there. You're
Yeah.
just experiencing a lot of it if you do your meditations, if you stay away from all the nastiness, if you stay away from the news, because you already know what's happening. Foundations are crumbling, things are changing.
Yeah.
This is also part of, I think, the multiverse. Is this part of it is the change that we need to be making. And I think that that's what's actually happening. So communication, I think, is part of how we become together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I just want to step back for a second because somebody might be watching and wondering to themselves, and if you could explain it, because I know what it is, but I know there are other people that don't, what the 3D and 5D is that you're referring to. So other
Oh,
people.
I'm sorry. Wow, that's everybody knows what I'm talking about. So,
Not always.
so the third dimension is, I think, what we are right now. Okay, the third dimension basically is our feet are on the ground. We're surrounded by the noise, the social medias, the TV. We're associated with just physical evidence. Okay, but when you get into 5D, is you're more in a self-awareness stage. All right. I believe that change is already happening, that let me just put it this way. More people, I think, are becoming much more self-aware. Now, part of that I also feel is because social media has helped to point out how important, spirituality is. So in a way, the 3D has helped people to make the connection or understand the connection on what the 5D is, which is the fifth dimension, which is really coming together as our energy fields and elevating to a higher vibration, which is, I believe that the people that are in that realm, it's not just the Dalai Lama out there that's doing this. It's that the people that are making this connection are really disconnecting from things that are, I guess, of the earthly matter that really don't matter. I mean, we're really just a hologram. Every single thing that's inside of me is on the outside of me. You guys are just something that has made a connection, and we probably made connections at some point in our past that now we're making a connection again. And we may have some type of lesson we have to learn from each other, which is also helping us to bring up our vibration. And the more that we have, I believe, a relationship with God, I believe the more that we have a relationship, which God is within ourselves, again, is also going to raise our vibration up higher. And then eating good foods, being connected to nature, being out inside the elements that are helping us to realign ourselves is, I think, also bringing up the vibration higher for those people who are really connecting on a much more spiritual level, that you can't stop it now. I mean, it's already in that vibrational field that I feel that people are already there as it is. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I believe too that people are actually at this point in time becoming much more aware because everybody's toning into that. People are being much more present. Listen, there will always be a side of people that are too much into this device that they made, and I always been saying that for years. It's a wonderful thing, but the problem is it's just like the TV in the house. You don't monitor it, it takes over your life. And
Right.
And I've seen it time at time. You know, as a mom, I remember watching how many mothers would take their kids, sit them in front of a TV set, and that would be their babysitter
Yes.
instead of playing, and you know, instead of getting down on the ground and playing with their kids.
Right.
And you know, working on the imagination and pretend and all this sort of building skills and so forth. But the telephone is that, and that takes us away from being present. But there is a you know, more people today that are tuning into being into themselves and feeling the others, and tuning in, like how I feel connected to you, and I can feel your vibration of being a beautiful soul. You
Right.
know, there's some people that don't see that,
Right.
but it's growing in more popularity than ever before.
Yes, exactly. And I do feel that the more that we stay in a connected place. So I was talking about Sherry Jules. She's a phenomenal medium. She's excellent. And she's been touched by an angel. So her connection is awesome. And we met at the psychic class together. And she said, when I walked in, she goes, there's a glow about you. She goes, you've been touched by an angel. She goes, I'm supposed to be your friend. I'm like, okay, whatever. So we've been friends.
Okay.
We've been friends for forever.
Found it.
So, however, I mean, I do believe that crystals help. I believe the essential oils help. I believe the more that you can be connected to nature, like I grow my own vegetables, but I'm lucky I'm down here in Florida. I mean, I feel that the more that we take care of our body, mind you, it doesn't mean that I can't go out and have a drink once in a while. It's just that I just know that what works for me is making that connection on a daily basis, meditating. I go to bed to meditation. I do prayer in the morning. I do prayer at night. It's just, you know, it to me, it's, and the less that I connect with negative people. Now, I'm going to precursor that to say that a lot of times people are calling me up because they're calling me for a reason. They got a trauma going on. There's something going on. There's a trauma, something or other going on. But I want them to come away from it with either a solution, or I want them to feel validated. I'm not going to tell them what they want to hear. That ain't working. First of all, that's bullshit. Second of all, it doesn't help. I want people to have accurate descriptive information because it's going to help them to either make a decision, or in Nicole's, you know, case, hopefully she'll get something out of it at Christmas time, like I told her to, because I still feel like that's what's going to happen. And I think that when that actually happens, is that people will come back and say to me, remember when you told me blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, okay, maybe, I don't know. I do a lot of readings. So I'll say yes. And they'll say, that's exactly what happened. I mean, and I want them to understand that that's the reason why doing the psychic readings, I'm very passionate about it. I talk about the medical stuff, even though I'm not a doctor. My background with the body is very important to me. So it may not necessarily be that I'm giving them anything that they don't already know, but I might be like, you know, you really might be going to a doctor just to go get something checked out. I will always say that. I think that it's important that people understand that, you know, warnings are warnings, you know what I mean? And it's helpful to be on the right track so that people can make good decisions for themselves. But when you're in the middle of it, and you know, because I don't know, been married, that background noise is just noise, right? Somebody can say you should do blah, blah, blah. Well, you stand over here and tell me how the hell you're going to take care of it with two kids. Right?
So 100%, 100%. And let's put it this way, you know what, especially of the warnings that we get about our bodies, you know, I'm very much just as like you are, you know, I'm very aware and extremely my body, exercise and all the rest. That's just part of my daily habits. And, you know, I'm grateful for all of it because it's built my body up. So when things knock me down, I seem to come around much quicker than the average person, no matter what the age is. But, you know, the problem is in a lot of us is when you get those things that tell us, the warning signals, the, the thing of stubbing the toe and you don't hear it until you break the leg. Some thought a part of our body says that you're exhausted, you need to stop. Women especially, we're terrible at when we're supposed to. Like, I'll tell you something. You know how many years it took me when feeling that I should be sitting down relaxing? If I sat down and to watch a movie when I was much younger, I'd feel guilty. Like, I got to be looking around. I got to do something.
Right.
I wasn't supposed to sit down. But you know what? And until the fact is that I would literally fall down because my body couldn't keep me going, that's when I would stop.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and that's actually the worst time to stop, is when you literally can't keep going. And it's so interesting because as we are in this rise of vibration and the energy and the consciousness, because I like to think of third and fifth kind of as a consciousness. Third, obviously, there's still a lot of ego blocking your truths. And in the fifth, as you open up and you become aware of not just yourself, but everything around you, and you call it a tree hug or whatever you want to. But just the other day, I remember I asked my body, what do you need? What do you need? And it was magnesium and copper. And I'm like, okay, I've got magnesium, I can do that. Where am I going to get copper? Well, just nothing's ever by accident, but I went in for this red light session yesterday, and what it had copper wires running through it. So not only was I told that I needed it, I actually found, my chiropractor said, go here. I went there, I met the lady, there were the copper wires. So nothing is by accident. When you start your awareness and you become connected to not just yourself, but to the universe, the multiverse, and you just slow down enough to listen to who you are and what you need, your body will tell you.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny though, because when you're saying that, I always think about how you're either a positive person, and the more you're positive, you connect to those positive people, right? Totally. It just happens. It's like you find your tribe. Like when I met Nicole, I was just like, I just like your energy so much that we ended up we could have talked for 4 hours that day, I swear to God. But I was just like, it was easy to make that connection with somebody that is on the same page and they understand where you're at. And I really like being on here because you guys are like, this is like awesome conversation. So it's like, yes, I know these people can talk about this forever. So I'll stay on for four more hours. We'll get off after that.
We'll have solved the problems of the world, sister. I'm telling you.
Well, isn't that what us women usually do when the girls get together?
Not usually, always.
Always. Okay, thank you.
That's our
stand to be corrected.
That's our forte, is solving everything.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
But I will say it makes a difference. Like when you are able to elevate yourself up, as Glenda was saying, stopping is hard. You know what I mean? Sitting down, because we are active. We're action people. How about that? And being action as moms, be thankful for that, because there are lots of moms who, I'm not making fun of them, but they're not action people. And I feel that the ones that really are go-getters and put themselves out there, I mean, I had anybody on the back who at least tries to do something, go for a walk or do something or make some type of action to get themselves going. And maybe, they didn't feel good about themselves. Building up their self-esteem is also part of what I like to do. I want people to come out of my classes feeling good. I want them to come up to me and say that they're sore because they got something out of the class. I want people to come away from my reading, not necessarily that it just has to be a feel good. I mean, I did a reading on this woman, her name is Glenda, and she's like, I'm like, well, did you get anything out of it today? And she's like, well, she goes, it actually turned into a counseling session. I'm like, yeah, they usually do. Most of them are counseling sessions, but that's okay. I mean, she came back to me again for another reading, so whatever. So it's just really about, I feel that the more that we can bring our vibration up, we're just elevating other people to that level. And the more that I stay away from people that I hear people say other people have dark energy. That's bullshit. You got dark energy.
Yes.
That's true. If you
Well,
see it in somebody, sometimes it's because there's something inside of you that's reflecting out. So if they're not
You're
good
mirroring.
people, if they're not in a good place, what I always say is, I can tell you if I have to walk around somebody in the grocery store because I'm like, they're not having a good day. Okay, fine, right? But I also feel like the more the higher that I get in energy, I feel like the more that I just connect to people that are of good energy. How about that? Does that make sense? That
well,
doesn't mean that
totally.
there can't be people who have negative energy, but um, I'm less associated, or there's
Bingo.
less of it. How about, or less of those are out there? How about that? To
Well,
to my world, to my world. Does that
for
make
my
sense?
world too, I
Right.
tend to gravitate towards very strong people and
Yeah.
very positive people because I when anything happens to me, there's only one way to look at it.
Right. Right. Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
the sun is going to shine no matter what. I always believe, I have this thing, and I've done for all my life, no matter how, even through the my darkest times, there's still in me of saying somehow, some way, I'm going to make it through all of this.
Exactly, right.
And
And
you don't know how, but you do.
right. You either hear, everything works out. Everything.
Everything.
Everything
Always.
always works out. And the less that I connect to, drama situations, like, what, don't wanna, I don't care. I don't care. And the reason I don't care is not because I don't care about the person, but they're so focused on something that probably could have just taken 5 minutes for you to say, you know what, I screwed up. I'm sorry. I'm also accountable for my actions, blah, blah, blah. Moving on. You know what I mean? And then just leave it at that will solve thousands of those problems immediately. We get so caught up in the things. And I mean, I think I'm out of high school. I'm pretty sure by now that I don't really want to be around that type of shit. So,
Oh my gosh. But
And we
you
do
know
have choices to make
that,
in our lives about who we are around, who we want to
yeah,
connect, and who we don't, and
exactly.
even your own family. And I've said this to so many people when they complain about, being around, well, I had a very negative mom when I grew up. She had a lot of things. When I got older and I sat back and looked at her life and think, I had a lot more understanding. But I
Yeah.
also made a conscious decision as a young child. I don't know where this came from. I do believe that I had some. I'm an old soul, but I had this thing that it was like, I don't want to be like my mommy. I
Right.
wanted to be like my dad. He was happy, always had a smile, always had a joke. And just as a little girl, I knew that my mother taught me some really important things in my life, like
Right.
some earth-shaking things that really changed and made me who I am today. So instead of looking at it as a negative, it became more of, okay, this is not what I want to be, but this is now that I can direct myself to become.
Right, right. I'm sure that also with that, it probably also helped you to become much more of, and I don't mean in no way it's going to come out, but you'll understand what I mean. But you had to be more of a control person, because by being a control person, it helped you to keep those balances away from that, because you had this as a happy person and you had this as a negative person, and you had to gravitate towards something. So what your life now had become is bringing this up to, I know what I want to do. It's almost like I got to stay away from this so it can't color your world, right?
But I could see things. And it
Yeah.
was like, I think back to some of the things, and it's absolutely crazy that a young child saw so much and could see, like I could see right through so many things. And as she was drawing more negative things coming, I always spotted it and kept saying and reinforcing it into me, no, I can be happy and I can get everything I want.
Right, right. Yeah, I can hear what you're saying, because I think that also helps for you to realize that how your life has turned out has helped you to navigate through the relationships that you've had as well. You know what I mean? Because who do we marry? Who do we always end up marrying?
Well, it's
Our,
very
our
common that
challenge,
we marry.
our challenge parent.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's such a hard reality to let that sink in, but that is so true.
Well, Nicole, you just said this to me the other day when we talked about this.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah,
And it's so true.
it
Right.
is. It
Right.
is. And we don't even know it. I wasn't aware. I really
How about
didn't.
this? You know why? Because it was your environment. Remember what I said? We're just kids. We're just grown-up kids. So what we think that we're doing is somebody feels comfortable to us, right? Because they're like, oh my God, I'm marrying myself. This person knows me so well. This is, we're on the same page, the whole 9 yards. Is only because of what we grew up with. A lot of times kids gravitate towards people that are really familiar to them as children. So, they get their best friends who they get along with so well that that's exactly what happens as we get older. We gravitate to people that feel good in our environment. Now, that also can be the reverse, is when kids are in kind of abusive homes and things like that, is they tend to gravitate towards people that they're still vulnerable around. And so those, they end up with kind of crowds that are either not good, or somebody continue bullying them because that's their environment and that's what they get used to.
Well, also is the fact of, unfortunately, through people that get neglected or abused, they also have lost, they lose their self-esteem and confidence and so
Absolutely.
forth. So
Absolutely.
they
Yeah.
look down at themselves, and sometimes some attention to them is better than no attention.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's, we are attention seekers. That is what we really are looking for. So abandonment is one of the biggest ones. Is the first time you get lost in a store, or you got left somewhere on accident, let's just say, the first time you get lost as an adult, you're not seeing the scene as the adult, you're seeing your scene as a child. That's true. That's really true. So it's really about, right, trying to get people to, like, I look at it as, what can they do to just forgive themselves, so that they realize that they don't have to continue living this feeling of, I'm not worthy. Like, we're totally worthy. God didn't want us to be like this. We want us to be living the best lives we can. And the most important thing is, how many times I'm not saying it to you, but how many times have you, walked up to a mirror, looked at yourself in the eyes and say, I love you, and not dropped your eyes?
Well,
That.
that's funny, because that's part of what I coach.
Okay.
Because let me tell you something, I grew up never being able to look in the mirror.
Oh,
It took me years of getting through my own self to get to that point. And now, because of the work that I have done on myself, that now I can teach others. How many women, more so and it might not be more so than men, but how many women, when they look in the mirror to, let's say, put on their makeup, they're not actually looking at themselves? Or how many times do you look in yourself in the mirror and you can look, drop dead gorgeous, and all you can see is maybe your flawed areas, like your thighs, and you see nothing else.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's so sad.
Right.
Why can't we look in the mirror and go, shit, we look good?
And that's the third dimensional world we live in, that's so completely fake, with these ladies that are using filters and it's just crazy. I watch both my daughters. Well, I've got to buy this, or I've got to put this makeup, or gosh, I'm fat. It's like, oh my God.
Right. But I always say this: beauty comes from within you, right?
Always.
And when you're beautiful on the inside, it's because you feel confident in yourself. And when you're confident in yourself, you come across very strong, right?
Very different.
I've got a client, John. I love John, but he goes, "You're intimidating." And I'm like, "I'm not intimidating. What the hell are you talking about?" He goes, "You're confident." He goes, "You speak your truth." He goes, "You come across as very, intimidating to a guy." And I'm like, "Well, that's on the guy. It's not my fault." I don't think of that as myself, but I do. I mean, I make eye contact with people. I say hello to people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just me. I mean, that's how I was raised as well. But I can tell you, like when I was going through my divorce, I'm sure that I wasn't making eye contact with people. You know what I mean? Because I probably didn't feel confident. And I've always been slender, just so you know that. But when I was going through my divorce, I think I was like 111 pounds. I think I had like 13% body weight. I'll even tell you I looked gross, but I was still working out every day. I mean, it was just, that was just something that I did. I mean, I'm not that now, but I, I still feel that it's very important that people look inside of themselves, like be real with yourselves first. It doesn't matter who you're with. If you're not real with yourself, it's kind of like you can't save anybody until you save yourself.
True.
So the people who are like dealing with the dramas, other people's dramas, is because they don't want to deal with their own. It's just a distraction over there if you can't take care of your own crap over here. So it's one of the things, like what you're saying, is saying I love you to yourself, or really working on positive affirmations. And this is true. You can go up to my nightstand. I have like 4 pages of things that I read out in the morning and in the evening to myself, on my business, on financial things, just my commitments to myself. All of these things that I wrote down. I just started dating a guy, and I actually literally wrote down all the things that I wanted in a guy. And I swear to God, Bill was not, I didn't even have a picture of him in my mind because I've known him for a year. All the things that are on my thing are exactly what Bill is. It's crazy because he wasn't the person at all. I still have this hot model that I thought I was sure was going to go out with. It still didn't happen, but I got Bill. He's still good.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, I totally believe, and I'm right with you. You do exactly what I do. So we are definitely, we're all 3 of us birds of a feather.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And it's,
Goodness.
well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news because that's my job, but we are getting.
You do it well.
And Michelle, you're just absolutely wonderful. And, it's been such an easy time of speaking with you. And we hope that we would be so delighted that you would join us coming back again, because great conversation, and people have to start looking out. And, like we just say, isn't it about time that we can just be happy with who we are?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. This was so much fun. I'm so glad you guys asked me to come on. I could talk to you guys for hours. I swear to God. This is just a wonderful,
it's a good and
conversation.
conversation.
I wasn't even nervous. I was just like, oh, let's just go. Let's just have fun talking about whatever.
Let's roll.
Well, and we're just trying to be real. So, life takes us on our own journeys, and it's up to us to, sit back sometimes and kick it in the ass and say, no friggin' way am I going that way. I'll do it my way. And that's okay. We have to do it our way. So before we finish up, Michelle, what little golden nugget or big golden nugget can you drop on people that are listening to us today, and that we could leave them with, whether
Well, I think that I really first of all, thank you guys so much. This is just fabulous. I had a great time. And I think the most important thing is be real with yourself. Meditate, get away from the damn TV. There is nothing on there. I mean, the more channels they put on, the less there is to be. Stop watching the news. There is not one thing on the news that's the truth. No research, research for yourself, real research, because there are lots of ways of understanding what's important to you. And stay away from negative people. And don't, for one day, don't complain about anything. Nothing. Don't complain about anything. And then make it a habit. Because the more you say positive things, the more you're going to attract positive people into your life. And the more that you're positive just about yourself, it's a transformation. Say I love you to yourself every day, and I promise you, you're going to have a fabulous life. I promise you, you will.
I agree. Thank you. Totally words of wisdom. Totally. Thank you. And Nicole, what little nugget can we come from you? You're always
Well, you know, we've covered such important stuff today. We truly, truly have. I think the most important thing that needs to be restated and remembered every day of your life is forgiving yourself, you know, for what you think you did or what you might have done. But the thing is if you did your best at the time, let that shit go. Let it go. And the minute you let that go, what's going to happen is you're going to turn to yourself and look in yourself in the mirror and realize I'm not that bad. And if I can love my dog, my kids, my husband, whomever, you can certainly love yourself.
Absolutely.
Bravo. And I will add one little nugget to this beautiful pot that we are dropping nuggets in. Please, if anything, I ask you to be aware of the language that you are speaking and the words that you are talking to yourself. We don't realize sometimes of what we say to ourselves. And sometimes, you know what, the negative things that we tell ourselves is the worst thing that you can be. We always think of this, if you were talking to a friend, would you talk to a friend that nasty as you talk to yourself? You are your best friend.
Beautiful.
Please, thank you so much for a wonderful show today. And like I said, Michelle, you're welcome back anytime. You're just wonderful. And I thank you so much. Nicole, my buddy, I love you. And I thank you very much for a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. And for everybody else, stay positive and stay strong. Thank you.
Bye, guys.